Alrighty, we're going to go ahead and get started this evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tanya Maestas. I will be moderating tonight's discussion. We're so excited to be welcoming you all today to our Diversity in Dentistry Town Hall. And this is something that the TDA has been hoping and working towards seeing pretty much all year round. So we are so excited to see this to fruition. But as we get started, I'd like to start off with some introductions. The first person I'd like to introduce this evening is Dr. Sheila Armstrong. Dr. Sheila Armstrong is a general dentist in private practice in Southfield, Michigan. She earned her doctorate of dental surgery degree from the University of Michigan School of Dentistry in 1990. Dr. Armstrong became a fellow in the American College of Dentists and International College of Dentists in 2017 and served as the 2020 president of the National Dental Association. She is also active in organized dentistry as a member of the ADA and Michigan Dental Association. Welcome, Dr. Armstrong. And next, we're going to feature Dr. Akshay Thusu. Dr. Thusu is originally from Mumbai, India. He moved to San Antonio, Texas at the age of 15 and has been there ever since. He graduated from the University of Texas at San Antonio in 2015. He is the current president of the San Antonio Academy of General Dentistry and serves on the TDA Council on Membership, New Dentists, and Students. Welcome, Dr. Thusu. Dr. Christina Miners is our next feature and our next panelist. Our Dr. Christina Miners was born and raised in the Rio Grande Valley. She graduated from the University of Texas at San Antonio in 2010. Dr. Miners currently serves on the executive committee as immediate past president of the San Antonio District Dental Society and secretary for the National Hispanic Dental Association. Welcome, Dr. Miners. Our next panelist is Dr. Brad Crump. Dr. Crump received his dental degree in 1997 from the Texas A&M College of Dentistry and his master's degree and certificate in periodontics in 2000 from the University of Nebraska College of Dentistry. Dr. Crump has been a member of the Diversity Inclusivity Committee at Dallas County Dental Society for the past 4 years and assisted in getting the Diversity Inclusivity Policy Statement passed by the Dental Society Board of Directors, making the Dallas County Dental Society one of the first component societies in the state to have such a policy. He is a current District 5 trustee on the American Academy of Periodontology Board of Trustees, representing Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Nebraska. Welcome, Dr. Crump. And I'm Tanya Maestas. I graduated from the University of Texas at Houston School of Dentistry in 2018. I now practice outside of El Paso, Texas at a FQHC and help out with the new dental school here in El Paso at the Woody L. Hunt School of Dental Medicine, which you can see behind me. So we're excited to get started today, and we're so excited to also welcome some special guests that we have with us tonight. Tonight, we are joined by TDA President, Dr. Deborah Worsham, TDA Immediate Past President, Dr. Jackie Plemons, TDA President-elect, Dr. Duke Ho, UTSD Houston Dean, Dr. John Valenza, Dr. Sarah Percy Tovar, Chair of the TDA Council on Membership, New Dentists, and Students, along with numerous TDA board members. A few housekeeping rules before we get started. All attendees will be muted during the first part of the presentation. Therefore, we ask you that you enter your questions using the question and answer feature, and we will do our best to answer them during the live. Or we will have a member of the TDA Council on Membership, Dr. N.T. Adderod, who will answer them via the question and answer. All right. So as we get started, I'd like to go around and ask our panelists what they think the importance of diversity in dentistry is and what it means to them each individually. So Dr. Armstrong, I'd like to send it to you first.
Thank you so much. So what does diversity in dentistry mean to me? What it means is, I think, what we all went to school for, which is to help to give optimal oral health to all patients, no matter their socioeconomic means, education, race, anything, but just to be able to provide oral health and give them means to maintain and have optimal oral health. So that's really what it means to me. With no constraints. I guess that's what I really want to say, with no constraints at all. You know, it would be an optimal day for me to go into my office and just perform dentistry all day, you know, and not have to worry about anything, any missing tooth clauses, any insurance, you know, anyone having money or not having money, but just to do, you know, Optimal dentistry all day. But we know we don't live in that world, but that would be ideal for me.
Oh, I wish we did. I definitely agree with that statement. Very well said. How about you, Dr. Thusu?
To me, diversity in dentistry, is a very broad spectrum to include. Definitely what Dr. Armstrong said, 100% agree with that. To me, in addition to that, when it comes to our profession, it is the opportunity and a platform for people from different backgrounds who are also our colleagues to be heard. And I want to make sure that people understand that as well, that it's not just being a dentist, but also it's not just diversity, it's also one step further, which is inclusion. And inclusion is, I think, what we should all strive for in addition to diversity. It is to ensure that when we include someone, we are listening to them and making them part of the decision-making process, which we do every single day with our patients, but also in organized dentistry, we want to ensure we replicate that.
Very well said. And I believe that the TDA feels very strongly about that as well. And we host a platform and always have an open door policy for anyone who has any ideas on how we can increase inclusivity within dentistry, but especially within the Texas Dental Association. How about you, Dr. Miners?
Yeah, I think Akshay did a really good job. You took the words out of my mouth. But really it is for me, diversity and inclusion is just acknowledging and embracing the change in our profession, the change that we have in our US, reflecting the demographics that we have and making sure that our profession is reflective of those changes as well. And I think we're doing, by having these town halls and these discussions, and like each of you that are joining tonight to learn more about it, that's a great way to embrace that change and learn more about it. It's not just race anymore. I love that the ADA expanded their definition of it. For me, it's coming from a young, new dentist, a female, a Hispanic, a public health dentist, your career options. Each of that plays a role in diversity. And so giving each of us that opportunity to step up and make that change in our profession and be a voice for others in our profession. I think it's a beautiful thing. And that's why we're here tonight.
Absolutely. And we continue to grow and learn every day. And I'm sure we'll continue to expand some of these definitions as we move on. And Dr. Crump, how about yourself?
Thank you. Glad to be here this evening. Some of you have, maybe heard the quote by Verna Myers that says, diversity is being invited to the party, inclusion is being asked to dance. We are all individual human beings, but all of us have the common thread of dentistry running through us. And as individuals, we all want to be part of a tribe, and we feel more comfortable being part of a tribe. And I think the importance of diversity and inclusion is making all individuals not only, feel welcome, but also, being acknowledged and being respected and being included in that tribe and made to feel welcome and free of judgment. So that's kind of what it means to me.
I love that quote. That was fantastic. All right, so let's jump into some questions. Our first question is, being from a diverse background, can you talk about the biggest challenge you faced in dentistry and how you overcame it? And Dr. Crump, since you're still on the big screen, how about we have you start?
Perfect. Initially, when I finished my residency, being a gay male and being a specialist and moving to Dallas, I wasn't really sure kind of how that would be received in the very conservative circles of dentistry in Texas. So I was extremely concerned about, getting referrals and how that would affect the success of my practice. So initially I was, really hesitant and very guarded with my personal, life. Kept my personal life and my professional life, very separate and isolated from one another. But due to my, activity increasing at my local component society at Dallas County Dental Society, the leaders there really, kind of not only talk the talk, but they walk the walk with diversity, and making me, as not only a new dentist and a young specialist, feel welcome when I came to meetings, but they also kind of, made me feel comfortable with who I was as a person and as a human being and as an individual. So, it took a few years, but, after, getting more established, I felt more comfortable, kind of opening up and allowing other people to see that side of me, which is, of course, a small part of who I am as an individual, but a very important part. So now, as a 50-year-old male, I kind of, if people have an issue with who I am, then that's has nothing to do with me, but everything to do with them. So, but it's constantly a daily struggle, because there are always, individuals who see that topic as extremely controversial, but it is what it is. But I think that from when I started practicing 20 years ago, the tripartite and organized dentistry has really made leaps and bounds on this topic to try to make, me as a gay male feel comfortable, but for everybody. So I think that having events like this is just so beneficial in making it known to the young dentist out there that it's okay to be who you are, that you're welcome. You're welcome at everything. So thank you.
I refuse to believe that you're 50 years old. There's no way. But I am so glad that we've seen, dentistry make some strides in the right direction, so that way practitioners can feel comfortable in themselves and feel like they're welcome to get involved. How about you, Dr. Miners?
Yes. So like you mentioned in my introduction, I was born and raised in the Rio Grande Valley. My mother was a registered nurse, and from an early age, I developed a love for science and anatomy. I think my first reading books at night were, the Grey's Anatomy and her nursing books. So I grew up hearing that I could be the doctor that she couldn't be. And I think we've all kind of heard the saying, to add another quote to the night, you can't be what you can't see. So for me, my biggest challenge was, even though I was growing up 5 minutes from the Mexican border, South Texas, I didn't really see many doctors that looked like me, female or even Hispanic. Or worse, I really didn't have anybody in my family that was a doctor, or anyone who pursued more education further than college. So when I looked at it, enrollment at that time was only 5.4% of Hispanics were enrolling in dental school. And that was in 2000, according to an Tda study. So I felt like the odds were against me. So how did I overcome it? For me, I found my why. I originally wanted to be a dentist because of my orthodontist. I think a lot of us had that experience early on in life where we saw how orthodontics kind of had that impact on us and changed us. And I wanted to have that change on somebody else. So that was my original, why I wanted to do this. But it wasn't until I served as a translator on mission trips with CMDA while I was in college. And since as a college student, I couldn't really do any hands-on, I went and participated as a translator. And so that's when it all clicked for me. So I would see the relief on the patient's face, on the patient's faces, being able to communicate with them and provide them relief and comfort in their own language made a change. I saw the gratefulness that they had for the care that they received, and even sometimes in the conditions that we have on mission trips, but they were grateful for what we could do. I knew that's why I wanted to pursue dentistry. I found my why was to enhance the oral health of these underserved communities. I felt that they deserved more healthcare providers who looked and sounded like them. So for me, I took that challenge. I overcame it. I hopefully overcame it, graduated. But I took it a step further on myself. With the experience that I had growing up, I wanted to create a program to reach out to students in underserved communities and help develop the BOLD program through our HTA and introduce dentistry as a career option for them to hopefully create a pathway through mentorship and service for these students. For me growing up, I wanted to be a doctor. I found, programs to enroll in and help me with that. But everything I saw was really, medical and leaning towards medical. So I kind of wanted to provide this other option. So that was that's my story. That was my challenge.
I love that. As another border town girl, I resonate so much with your story, and I love, you know, all that you're doing for your community and the Hispanic community. So please keep up the great work. All right, Dr. Thusu.
For me, I think like the biggest challenge that I faced was when I entered one of the early meetings of organized dentistry, and I just saw a lot of people in the meeting who were decision makers didn't really look like me. You know, they listened to me, but they didn't look like me. And sometimes when it was kind of hard for me to go up to them and, you know, tell them what my opinions were, what I think would benefit, you know, a particular program or what events we wanted to have, it was a little harder for me to go. I didn't know anyone in dentistry. You know, I'm an immigrant. I don't have that many family members in San Antonio who are in dentistry. So for me, it was like I had to chart my own path in dentistry. And that was, I think, the toughest part, is trying to find someone who I think could help me and guide me in how to, you know, have my voice heard in dentistry. I think the biggest thing that kind of helped me, I'm going to add another quote since everyone is doing that, is, you know, one from John Sinclair, which is, you know, failure is a bruise, not a tattoo. And I kind of live by that motto. Is, you know, people who know me, they know I speak a lot and I talk up, even though, you know, sometimes it may be contrary to the majority's belief. I still talk about it. And if my voice is heard, you know, I'm really happy. But when it is not heard, I am not down. It doesn't, you know, I don't feel like I have not contributed. And I think the biggest thing that I've been able to do is, you know, when I was at those meetings and over the years, is I've seen organized dentistry grow to where people from diverse backgrounds, not just mine, but in general from all different backgrounds, their voices are being heard by the decision makers. And a lot of the decision makers are more representative of the diverse background of our profession. So, you know, I'm super happy about that. And that's why this topic is very close to me.
I am so glad that you speak up. You add so much value to a lot of the conversation. So thank you for sticking with it. Dr. Armstrong?
So this question is kind of funny because I have been very blessed in my dental career. Challenges, I've had lots of mentors. I've just really had not an easy road, but it's been pretty smooth. But in terms of challenges, again, the challenge is probably, again, providing the best care and trying to stay in business. Because sometimes, you know, I give things away because of my passion for dentistry. And, you know, I have staff to say, you know, you can't do that, Dr. Armstrong, you've got to charge them, you know. But, you know, it's just my passion. And I figure eventually, you know, the dust will settle where it may. But again, just wanting to, you know, do the best I can for my patients. And again, trying to figure out how to do that and balance staying in business, because the business of dentistry can be a challenge for practitioners. So
I love that you bring that up. I think that diversity and inclusivity goes, you know, beyond just organized dentistry and a little bit chair-side, and we'll go into a question that hopefully will cover that as well too. But working at FQHC, I see that firsthand as well too, and it's hard not to give it all away. But you're right, we got to stay in business somehow.
right.
All right, our next question: how has a mentor helped and guided you in your journey of becoming a leader in dentistry? All right, Dr. Armstrong, kick us off.
So like I said, I've had lots of mentors. When I got out of dental school, I immediately hooked up with some local dentists that were members of the local component of the National Dental Association. And they were the greatest cheerleaders for me. They encouraged me to get involved in community service, of course, to get involved with the local chapter of the National Dental Association. They encouraged me to go straight into office, you know, and so, you know, that just really lit the fire for me. so mentors, played a great role in my career. And then once I got to the national level, again, I met people from all across the country that were just welcoming and, encouraging. And that's what we need, when you're right out of school, is someone to encourage you and say, hey, look, come, let's have a little, have coffee and let me talk to you about, dentistry and the things that you can do and the possibilities, and let me introduce you to someone, And so the networking that I have experienced over my 31-year career, which is hard to believe, has just been awesome. But it started immediately after I got out of school because I got involved with organized dentistry.
Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Tsusu?
So in my short career, like I said, I had mentors who helped me guide. And I think that's what has been very beneficial for me is I didn't see anyone who looked like me. So I assumed that I may not find a mentor in the room. And to the contrary, I found multiple mentors. And some of my closest mentors are people who are not of diverse background. And I think that makes a statement in saying, like, you don't have to have a mentor or a mentee who always has to have the same background. You just have to share a common value. And for me, fortunately, and Christina and me both have similar mentors since we're both in San Antonio, is that has been an eye-opening experience to me, is where when I initially started, I felt like I may not have a place at the table making decisions, but actually being more involved in organized dentistry, it opened my eyes to see that mentors are there, and even if they don't look like you, just going up to them and talking to them and finding that common value will definitely help you find your home in dentistry, whether it is in organized dentistry, it's chairside, whatever it is. I think just finding a person who shares that common value with you is more important than trying to find someone who actually is a mirror image of you.
That's a very good point. Dr. Miners.
All right, so mine started right off in dental school, being as a student. For me, I knew I wanted to pursue a public health career. That was where my heart was focused on. And I found that as a student, I gravitated more towards the Hispanic faculty, or the faculty that looked a little bit more like me. And rarely enough, more of those were in public health. So fortunately for me, they introduced me to the Hispanic Student Dental Association, and that was where I was a little bit more active in dental school. Just getting opportunities through there. Also being introduced to more public health externship opportunities. And one of the rotations that I went on is actually the FQHC that I work on currently. So it's kind of a nice little full circle there to kind of lead me to where my future job would be. But even starting as early as then, and so that's why I think it's imperative that for any students that are on the call, or for the dean that's on the call, starting these early conversations, these mentorships and diversity conversations in dental school is important. And for our faculty to look like more of our students, representative of our students, helps a lot. And like I said, I got really involved with HSDA, and when I graduated, I felt comfortable, in being more involved with our local Hispanic Dental Association in San Antonio. And so that's where I really started my leadership journey. They invited me, to be on the board. I was one of the youngest to serve as president of that organization at the time. And then from there, I was invited now where I'm secretary for the national HDA. And so it's kind of that step ladder of mentorship and early places where you feel comfortable. And I think that's kind of where it starts for a lot of people. You find your mentor and you find someone where you're comfortable first. But even when I went to my first local ADA meeting, or SADS meeting, I tend to be someone that may sit in the back for a little bit until I'm invited to the front. And I think that's kind of for anybody that was a new dentist for your first meeting. It's kind of a little shell shock of seeing older dentists, I'll say it here, we're amongst ADA family, but we had the little tagline if it was the old man's club or white boys club. And that's because that's what it was. What we saw there, as younger dentists coming in, it was an older white male dominance at those meetings. And as a new dentist, a young female dentist, like Dr. Thusu said earlier, sometimes it could be a shock. But fortunately, we have some amazing people, some amazing mentors that are part of these organizations that took the lead to invite us to these meetings, to make us feel welcome at these meetings, and really opened up spots on committees for us, on the boards for us. So they were listening to what we had to say and our opinions, even as new dentists. And getting on those boards, I saw other women dentists that were leaders on the board as well. And so I could see myself kind of following that pattern. And so, like she said, I just was the 5th dentist to serve, or women dentist to serve for the San Antonio District Dental Society since 1913. So that's, I think, hopefully paving the way for the future.
Absolutely. One thing that really stuck out from what you said is, a lot of times we look to others who look like us or who have a similar background of us. And so for students who maybe are a little bit more timid, they may be looking for somebody who they can relate to. So I completely agree. And I would really encourage, the dental deans to staff the dental schools with a lot of different diversity, different people from different diverse backgrounds and different experiences, just to help connect with those students that are going through dental school, because we know what a grind that was. But Dr. Crump.
Sure, thank you. It's like others who have spoken, it's, I had, many individuals and things that were, mentors to me. Number one, it was fellow dentists in the area, like Akshay had mentioned. There weren't many people who, were kind of mirror images of me who, were gay male dentists in Dallas. They're kind of few and far between. So there were some, and I kind of coalesced to them. And even though they weren't active in the political arenas of organized dentistry, they still were allies in the community that I kind of relied upon at my young age, first getting started. Also, the Dallas County Dental Society, the leaders in that organization really helped me early on, and also the staff of that organization were imperative in making me feel, a part of. And early on, it was, I came to the realization that if I wasn't willing to, or wanting to kind of accept myself as a gay male in the dental community, how could I expect anybody else to do that for me? So, a lot of personal growth had to take place during my early career. Just, number one, accepting myself, because then once I got to that point, then I started really carving my own path, with what I wanted to do with my career and my practice and with my leadership positions. And as I progressed through that, I had a lot of people approach me just saying, thank you so much for being visible, being out there, because there's no one that's been like you, that's, like me, who's been in positions like this. And so that really gave me the courage to continue to work and move forward and strive to be the best leader as possible. But, there are so many people in my life who have mentored me, and they're really too numerous to count. But it's really my tribe here in Dallas that's been so important for me. So thank you.
Thank you. And yes, I am so glad that you are very visible. I am sure that you now serve as a mentor, or at least somebody that others look up to in your role through organized dentistry and all that you do. So now we're going to have a little bit of fun. We are going to ask the audience what question we would like answered next. So we have Ms. Leanne, who is going to put a poll up for everyone to answer. And it'll take us just a second to get that up. Literally just a second. All right. And while everyone is voting, we would like to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about the TDA's diversity and inclusion policies. So we're also going to put that up here in just a second. I love it. We have some very tech-savvy administrators here. So we're going to read through some of these policies. So resolved that any official event of the Texas Dental Association, the invocation should be as ecumenical as possible and to reflect the diversity of the membership. Our other policy is resolved that it shall be the policy of the Texas Dental Association in principle and in practice to value and seek diverse and inclusive participation within the association. So these are great policies that the TDA has, and hopefully your local association, if they haven't already, have looked to these policies and will hopefully adopt something similar and maybe even model what the Dallas County Dental Society is doing with their diversity and inclusion policy. And they have a really great group that's doing great things in Dallas. All right, and I think we're still polling. And it looks like we do have two questions that are the same, but we will pick, if you'd just like to pick one of them, we'll pick one of the three. All right, looks like we're still polling. But how about we jump real quick into one of the question and answer questions. We have a question for Mr. Gary Picard. As someone who represents a large DSO who supports a very diverse group of oral healthcare professionals who historically may not have felt welcome within organized dentistry, which could have impacted their choice to become members. What is the industry doing to share this message of inclusion? How can I help? All right, that's a great question. I'm going to start with Dr. Thusu, if you'd like to tackle that question first and see what ideas you have.
So I think the first step is recognizing, right? We want to recognize the diversity that we have within our profession. I think that's the first step, not just the patient population we serve, but also our colleagues. That is the first step, which I think everyone will agree that a lot of organizations have already done. The second step is, I think, outreach, which I believe a lot of organizations are doing currently, if they haven't already finished that, is where they have outreach and they're asking for opinions and they're asking for people of that diverse backgrounds to actually speak up and be heard. And I believe, at least on the TDA side, obviously I don't speak for TDA when I'm talking right now, but on the TDA side, that has been done. Hence, those two policies were formed because the initial outreach was done to get then the thoughts and opinions of the different individuals who make up our organization. And I think the next step after the policy is outreach again. And I believe this podium that we are on right now is part of that outreach. And I think a lot of organizations are making that effort consciously and are succeeding at it. At least having this conversation is a great first step to have members who are of that diverse background feel like they do have a seat on the table and that they do have a home in organized dentistry. This is just one of the steps the TDA is doing, obviously at the local level, as Dr. Crump has mentioned before, and many other local dental societies within Texas have diversity committees with an aim and goal to increase representation within our organized dentistry. So I believe right now we are at the stage of where we're reaching out again, since we have heard and we have these policies in place to actually for us to now officially as organization make it a priority. Because unfortunately, the way organizations work, things have to be policy first before we can actually do all the groundwork thereafter.
Very well said. How about you, Dr. Miners?
Let me go. Sorry, I was on mute. Let me see the question one more time. So I have a personal thing here. So I get where he's coming from, because being in public health, I think DSOs and public health, sometimes people have viewed ADA as being, helping the private practice owner. That was kind of the model that it followed. And I think we've changed a lot since then. And I think that's because of new leadership, more diverse leadership. So the views of that have changed, and the policies to help towards that have changed. But even in my own personal experience as a public health dentist, I remember my first legislative day, or one of my first legislative days that I went as a new dentist, and they asked, well, what do you do? And I told them I worked for an FQHC, or I was in public health, and I got so what are you doing here? Why does this affect you? And it kind of took me a little bit aback. And it's just one dentist's opinion, but obviously not reflective. But for some people, that could have, you made it or broke it for me. If it could have changed the path for me. It didn't, thankfully. And if anything, it invigorated me, because I felt as a public health dentist, there's lots of legislation to support, and ADA can be very resourceful help for that. So I think in that matter, I can see where Dr. Pickard is coming from. And I'm hoping that, this message of inclusion is something that, now that we've made some changes in our leadership to hopefully reflect more of our membership, that it's going in the right direction. I think the one thing I could say is how you can help is encourage your employees to become ADA members. And the ADA has the IDL program, the Institute for Diversity and Leadership, which a lot of our panelists have been a part of, or alumni of. And really it speaks to inclusion on the leadership level, and getting more diverse leadership within our organized dentistry. So really supporting your employees to be a part of that, become members and be a part of that program, and continue to make those changes.
Very well said. And yes, thank you for reminding me that there are many of us here who are ADA, IDL graduates. And if you all are interested in that program, it's a great year-long program where you get to meet a lot of great diverse dentists from across the nation. I would really encourage you all to check it out. So just Google ADA, IDL, and we may even have some participants who are part of that program joining us now. But let's send it over to Dr. Crump.
Thank you. In relation to that, that's a great question. And, having, in my positions that I've held, we've had this discussion regarding, DSO involvement at the local and national level. 25, to 27 years ago, that practice model was still in its infancy. And I think as it's evolved and had the exponential growth that it's had, unfortunately, it kind of took organized dentistry, kind of by surprise and by storm, and to try to figure out how to embrace that practice model has been somewhat challenging. But the common thing is that, as dentists, we all benefit from the work that the tripartite does regarding advocacy and protecting our profession and the doctor-patient relationship. And, the buck kind of stops there, that, if it weren't for the ADA and our state organizations and our local components, dentistry would not be the profession that it is. So I would probably start the discussion with, the non-members of the DSOs, kind of with that, and saying, if you like, the profession of dentistry and your ability to practice dentistry, with your patient without interference. We need to thank, organized dentistry for that. And that's the reason why it's so important for you to become part of that, because without membership, all that goes away and we lose our voice and our say in relation to how we practice dentistry and care for our patients, which, should be all of our primary concern.
I always say that our organization is only as strong as its members. So if you're not a member yet, hopefully after today's town hall, you'll be convinced to become a member. Dr. Armstrong.
So I'm just going to piggyback on, I do agree on encouraging membership. The ADA, the NDA, the HDA, there's several, AGD, there are all types of dental organizations out there, but just encouraging your employees or the doctors within the DSO to be a part of something. And as far as the National Dental Association, we definitely welcome doctors that work within the DSO realm because it's new and it's here to stay. So, we definitely need to know, what it is that, you deal with on a daily basis and, what are your challenges? And the only way, we're going to understand that is if you join our organization. So I would again say, encourage membership amongst your employees.
Absolutely. I think that a lot goes into a lot of the conversations that many of these organizations are having. And so if you want your voice to be heard, you got to be at the table. All right, we will get back to some of the question and answers, but we're going to go back to the poll winner. And that question is, what can be done by TDA to increase membership by ethnic and minority dentists, especially where minority dental groups exist? All right, Dr. Miners, how about you start us off?
All right, my favorite question. So for me, it was kind of the breadth of my presidency with the San Antonio District Dental Society. We each picked a theme for our presidency, and mine was diversity and inclusion. It was kind of where I was coming from, being a past leader in our HDA chapter, and that's kind of what I wanted to bring into my leadership within the dental society. And it just happened to fit appropriately with the times that we had as well. Everything was changing throughout the nation, and diversity and inclusion was a big talking point, so it fit right in. So for me, what can be done, just like Dr. Armstrong said, collaborating and joining with your local HDA chapters, your NDA chapters, your Society of American Indian Dentists, just any of the other organizations that are more inclusive or diverse in your area, to be a part of them. One of the big initiatives that I had was also to establish a diversity and inclusion committee within our local district dental society. So I created and shared that for the years of my presidency, and it really was great. It invited members who hadn't been participating in committees before, who hadn't been to meetings before, but they found somewhere where they were comfortable to have a voice and to talk. And so that's something that we're working on and developing further. And I just highly encourage each of the chapters to each of the local dental societies to form a committee like this. So I think it's very helpful and can help others have a voice within your society. And like I said, being open to collaboration. Right now, we're going to start September 15th. We kick off Hispanic Heritage Month. So seeing what you can do at your local dental society to maybe embrace your local Hispanic dental chapter, or somebody, the Hispanic members in your chapter, in your society, to do something to support them. Like right in San Antonio, we're actually going to partner with our local Hispanic Dental Association for a social. And it's the first time that's ever been done, and I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's we're open to those collaborations, and we're definitely with these with these other organizations, we're not competitive. It's not about gaining membership or anything like that. We want to be open. I think we're stronger together, and we work better together for our communities. So yeah, I encourage you to get out of your comfort zone and diverse your portfolio and join these other committees as well.
I love that. And I really, really like that you all pick a theme for the year for your president. I think that's really nice and kind of sets the precedent for the whole year. Dr. Crump.
All right. You know, we've heard the saying, all politics is local. And I think that's really where diversity and inclusion has to start. You know, I think, you know, number one, starting at the dental schools and having, you know, individuals from, you know, the local component kind of engage the dental groups at the schools, you know, educating them about organized dentistry and letting them know that, you know, they're all welcome and being open to their comments and things. And also having a diversity and inclusion committee with your component society and having a statement drafted. I think that's another important step. A lot of components, you know, still don't have a diversity and inclusion statement or even have a diversity and inclusion committee. So starting there, I think, is a really good starting point. And then, you know, having open discussions and being, you know, really kind of looking inward as an organization and being open to hearing, you know, maybe some not so positive comments from members as what their experiences have been at meetings and things like that. I mean, at Dallas County, you know, we heard some things that, you know, we weren't too proud of as far as other people's experiences that a lot of us didn't even know that they were feeling until we asked the question. And I think starting with asking questions and making people feel comfortable that there is a place and a safe place to answer, you know, to say those questions. And then not only, you know, talking the talk, but walking the walk and really have some action items coming out of your committees that really kind of start moving your organization in the right direction to achieve your goals with diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, it makes you think how, you know, different people's or different members' experiences are. When you don't go out and ask those questions, maybe they're experiencing something that is negative. And since they haven't expressed it, there's no way that change can happen. But thanks for sharing that. Dr. Armstrong.
So I'm just sitting here listening, and I don't know what the Texas Dental Association looks like. And it's wonderful to have diversity and inclusion statements and a diversity and inclusion committee. You know, those are all, you know, great things to have in place. But you know what? You really got to want it. And if I come to a meeting and I'm a minority female in a sea of white faces, if I don't feel any warmth from you or any welcome, you know, if I don't feel welcome, I'm not coming back. So, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, well, we have our diversity and inclusion statement and we have our committee, you know, but when I walk through the door, if no one smiles at me, you know what, I'm not coming back. So, you know, you've got to be open. And when you see someone new trying to, you know, attend your meetings or be a part, you've got to embrace them, you know, and you may not know them, but you've got to step out there and embrace them. Like Dr. Crump just said, you got to walk the walk and talk the talk. So I think that, you know, if you really want it, and if you really, you know, open your arms to other diverse members of our dental community, you know, that's something that can be achieved.
Dr. Armstrong, we welcome you with open arms in Texas. You
okay, I'm coming
whatever
down
you'd like. All right. Dr. Thusu.
So I don't have much to add. It's just I think everyone has already covered everything that I was thinking. But just to kind of build on what Dr. Armstrong said, I think the first thing a lot of people who are leaders need to understand is in my personal opinion, people of diverse backgrounds don't want you to be colorblind. A lot of time people throw that terminology out saying, oh, we are colorblind, you know, we welcome everyone. You know, I think as you've seen in today's society, being colorblind can be a hindrance. You know, it is better to not be colorblind, see the other person, realize and recognize the difference you have with that individual and start that conversation. So I think that is something is very key in getting that dialogue started. So I think that's the only thing I would add to the discussion.
Thank you. All right, so let's jump right back into some of the question and answer section. Our next question is, I find it difficult to feel heard and seen as a minority female dentist, especially when many dentists recognized in professional magazines. For example, even in our latest local July 2021 TDA magazine, on the cover recognized Texas dentists that were almost exclusively all male, majority white, and did not include any Black women. What tips can you give on how to feel more comfortable and heard in spaces where the only thing in common with many of your peers in the profession don't look like you, share your journey, and you don't really feel other dentists are reaching out? Very great question. Dr. Tsusu, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, of course. I think the first key, I think, is, as Dr. Armstrong said, you need to be wanting it. And you have to define your it. What are you wanting out of going to that meeting? Are you looking for mentorship? Are you looking for CE? Or are you looking to be involved in the decision-making process? And like I said earlier, when I started, one of the reasons why this topic is near and dear to my heart is because when I entered, no one looked like me. But I wanted it. I made friends. Dr. Miners, for example, is a friend, but over the period of time, she's also kind of like a mentor, paving the way for people of diverse backgrounds in San Antonio and at the national level. So I think you just have to kind of step outside of your comfort zone, because I think we all agree that growth happens outside of your comfort zone. And sometimes we just have to be comfortable with it. As clinicians, we have stepped outside our comfort zone multiple times. You can think about the first time we did an extraction, the first time we did anesthetic. We were not ready for it, but we stepped outside of our comfort zone, and that's where we grew as clinicians. Sometimes we just have to have that same attitude when we go to these meetings. Just be open, and you will probably be dismissed. You may feel like you are not being heard, but I guarantee you, your efforts will not go in vain. Sometimes you just have to make those efforts multiple times to get the result. I have done that. That's why I love that quote from John Sinclair: failure is just a bruise, it's not a tattoo. And I think if you go with that attitude, and like Dr. Armstrong said, you need to be wanting it, I think that you will find that there is a place for you, and there's a place for you to grow and become part of the decision-making process. You're on mute, Tanya.
Thank you. I want to go back to something Dr. Miners had said and tie it into something that I think you're saying as well. I think that Dr. Miners alluded to when she kind of first started dental school, everything, there were many who were very predominantly white. And over time, the demographics have slowly started to change. So that magazine, I think, featured some of the dentists who are recognized for their 30, 50, and 60-year membership. But, maybe the younger class, those who are recognized for their 10-year membership, though they didn't have their photos submitted in there, their names were in there. So potentially, if they continue their membership, we may see some more of those faces and some more of that diversity being included into future magazines. But yes, I completely agree, and wanting it and being there and being part of that voice in those discussions. Dr. Miners.
Thank you. Yeah, so for me, my biggest advice would be do it now. Like he said, if you want a seat at the table, get your seat at the table, and now is the best time to do it, because I think everybody has open ears. We even have the president of TDA on the call tonight, the dean of a dental school on the call tonight. Now is the time, if you want to be heard, to speak up. And I think we're all cognizant of making those changes and correcting any wrongs that would have been done without us even knowing. So for me, I would say in your local dental society, if there is a diversity and inclusion committee, become a member of it. If there isn't, ask to start one. If that's not something you want to do quite yet, then just look at the other committees that are available at your local level and see where you can start, and just kind of work your way in there. And once you may have yourself a seat at the table or express your interest in having a seat at the table, I believe they'll be more receptive to listening to you more. But yeah, I think now is the best time to do it. And if you want it, then go for it. I highly encourage you to.
Thank you. Dr. Armstrong.
Thank you. So let me just clarify my statement because I think it was slightly misunderstood. When I was saying, you have to want it, I'm talking about the majority. So this person that asked this question, she kind of reminds me of myself. And again, walking into a room where no one looks like you, you probably are not going to be, very vocal initially, and unless that's just your personality. So when I'm saying, as far as the welcoming, it has to be on the members of the organization side. They have to be welcoming. When you see me, when you see someone that hasn't been at your meeting before, you need to go over and say, hello, welcome, and make that person feel welcome. It's not so much the person coming into the meeting, but it's the people that are already there. That's what I'm speaking to. Because, I've been there where you walk into a meeting and no one says anything to you, and so you do kind of sit in the back. So unless you have a really, bigger than life personality, it takes time to work your way up to being vocal. Yes, the time is now, but the time is to recognize differences. And I think that's what, people that are already members that want their organizations to become more diverse, we need to recognize that the time is now, and we need to be making those strides to bring different types of people into our organizations.
Yeah, very well said. I think that as leaders, we can make a lot of strides in the right direction in reaching out to somebody who's new, or maybe somebody who might feel out of place, to make sure that they feel welcome and maybe find a place that they feel comfortable in sharing their thoughts and ideas. Dr. Crump.
Thank you. I talked earlier about, people wanting to feel part of a tribe. One thing that I've come to realize is that, people who are part of my tribe don't look anything like me. And that we're all completely different. And I've had, some individuals that are, have look completely different than me, have diametrically opposite views of mine, who are my greatest allies. And, I always say that I'm an introvert masking around, walking around as an extrovert. It's always so hard to go outside of your comfort zone and introduce yourself to individuals. But I've been at meetings where I do not know a single individual, and I have to go outside my comfort zone and start introducing myself to people and striking up conversations. It's hard, it's difficult, but sometimes you're in situations where you just have to do that. And you'll really come to find out that, once you start doing that, it becomes less uncomfortable. But just know that just because people don't look like you doesn't mean that they won't listen to you and won't understand you. I think that's so important.
I have been in that situation as well too, and I'm shorter in stature, so it sometimes can be hard to get people's attention, but it can be tough, and making our way through there and having others approach new members can be really helpful. So I want to thank Ayana Anderson for that question, and we'll jump into our next question from Lavette Henderson. How do you encourage all dentists, including our white counterparts, to treat all consumers and not just those with the financial means? All right, Dr. Crump, would you like to start us off with that question?
And I guess I'm assuming, as in practice, I'm assuming that's what this question is directed to. I've learned to make, through 21 years of, having my own office, I've come to learn that I just never make assumptions about anybody. And when I opened my practice, I came to a point where I said, you know what, I'm going to treat every individual that's in my office and every patient how I would want to be treated. And it's kind of like the golden rule, you know, do unto others as you would do unto yourself. And you know, that's really hasn't set me on a wrong direction, you know, very well for me. So, you know, that's what I would, you know, try to encourage, you know, other individuals, other practitioners, is just never make assumptions, because everybody has their own story, their own path, their own experiences. We're all different, and it just, you know what they say about assuming, it makes a blank out of you and me. So just never assume anything, and just you know, just try to treat everybody as you would want to be treated.
Thank you. Dr. Tsusu.
I just agree with what Dr. Crump said. You know, I am an associate, so I don't always see, at least on the business side, of what things are happening, and you know, there is a business to run. The only thing I would say is where we are trying to encourage our colleagues to treat people, even those without the financial means that this question asks, is, you know, maybe to have or encourage our other practice owners to do maybe some free dentistry, or to actually partner up with a lot of organizations. At my current office, the office has partnered with a lot of Dentistry from the Heart and other local organizations to encourage individuals who may not be able to access dental care. Also, another thing is, you know, there are a lot of local charities and dental clinics that are open, maybe volunteering in some of those clinics. When we talk about, you know, giving back and, you know, treating everyone, sometimes people with other financial needs, it's harder as a business owner to be giving away a lot of free things, because in the end, the more free things you give away, the closer you are to maybe closing your practice, or, you know, not being able to write a paycheck for those working for you. So it can be very hard when there's a situation where you do see someone deserving of it, and that's where you can actually work with local organizations. And, you know, I've been fortunate enough to where I have mentors, and I've been able to participate in a lot of free dental care events. The Texas Mission of Mercy, for example, is a great event that happens all around the state. Every state has their own Mission of Mercy. So I would highly encourage, you know, starting off somewhere like there, to encourage, you know, you as an office to maybe go to an event like that, just take a day off and maybe go and volunteer and give back.
Yeah, Mission of Mercy events are so fun, and also another fun way to meet more dentists as well too. But Dr. Armstrong, you alluded to giving away a few things along the way, but would you like to answer the question next?
Sure. So just as my two colleagues just mentioned, never make assumptions, never try to count somebody else's money. Sometimes, you know, the very person that you think can't afford something will find a way. So, you know, again, we always put our best foot forward. And really, if the patient believes in you and they're confident in you, sometimes they are very inventive on how they come up with paying for things that they may not necessarily on paper look like they can afford. So I like that, never make assumptions. I've stopped that long ago. But as Dr. Akshay said, you know, volunteering in Mission of Mercy, those types of events, volunteering with RAM, you know, they're such gratifying events for dentists, you know, because again, that's where, you know, we can just let loose and provide dentistry, and we are not worrying about any types of constraints. So, you know, I do agree that those are other opportunities for us to give back. And then, you know, if you're in private practice, just sometimes you just have to do that. You just have to give back. You just have to decide, you know what, I'm going to bless this person. And if you do, you know, eventually you're going to be blessed, you know. But that's again a part of why we're all here, is because we, you know, we want to promote oral health, and we want to see everyone have optimal oral health.
those good blessings and good karma definitely make their way back around.
They do. They definitely do.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Miners?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's really touched up on some great points. I can tell, like Dr. Thusu said, I was his mentor because he took a lot of those words right out of my mouth. We think alike, but definitely treating your patients like your family is one thing. And I think one of the best ways that you're able to do that is when you relate to them and when you can when you can understand them a little better coming from the same time. Like Dr. Armstrong said as well, you know, patients will accept or find money for the treatment if they find value in that treatment. Dentistry is a very vulnerable profession, you know, and so sometimes for those patients, if they don't feel like they trust you, sometimes they may be more trusting to somebody that looks like them or sounds like them. That's why it's best to have, or why we want to encourage more diversity in our profession. But when you don't, sometimes the way to relate to them, maybe take some cultural competency courses, so you can find a way to relate to them on that level. And when the patient sees that you're trying, that you're presenting a treatment plan to them in a way that it's valuable or makes sense to them and relates to them, they may be more accepting of that treatment. So I'd encourage, you know, looking out for some cultural competency courses on that and how to better present treatment plans like that. Said participating in service events, outreach events. The TMOM is great. I'll make a pitch for San Antonio. We're doing a veterans one November 5th and 6th. So come out and join us. If you've never been to one before, we're hoping to have one then and make it one of the best. But, you know, also even giving back in your community in a way, like I said before, maybe being a mentor to a future dental student from a diverse background, opening up your office for shadowing for them. And maybe even that way, you know, you can see how dentistry through their eyes and make it more relatable as well. And maybe find a way differently for you to practice. You know, accepting more Medicaid patients or being, you know, open to seeing more Medicaid patients as well. I believe in the US, only a third of dentists accept Medicaid and CHIP programs. So being open to accepting those types of services in your office as well to expand that access to care.
Thank you, Dr. Miners. And we probably have time for 2 questions, and we do have one from Dr. Ho and also from Michelle Moreno. So Dr. Ho's question is, diversity and inclusion seems most fulfilling and lasting when it's personal and organic, not manufactured. How do we achieve this? I'm going to start with Dr. Thusu, who's going to talk a little bit about what the TDA is doing.
So at the TDA level, as a member of the council on membership, new dentists and students, you know, we have the directive from our leadership and our board to make this a priority. You know, when we have our leaders not only recognizing, but actually instructing us to make strides within our membership to encourage this, you know, that is the first step. And I can tell you on the TDA side, at least, that is being done. Also, what is being very encouraged at the state level by the council is we are encouraging many, if not all, of our local components having that diversity conversation at the local level. Because like all the panelists have said before, that grassroots effort is the key. And that is where you find that organic growth in diversity, acceptance, and, you know, all of that. So that is being done at least at the council level, where we are encouraging a lot of our local components to do it. Dallas was one of the leaders in that. We also have a diversity committee in Houston, and we have one in San Antonio that Dr. Miners started as part of her presidency and her team. So that is being done at the state level. Another thing that, you know, I think is something that has been done for multiple years, and I think everyone at least over here knows, is the Institute for Diversity in Leadership, which is the ADA IDL program. It is a free program for not only ADA members, but also non-members, because the goal of the ADA in diversity is to encourage leaders of diverse backgrounds. And we go to Chicago, we get some amazing eye-opening training on how to become leaders, not only in organized dentistry, but in our personal life. And I was fortunate enough to be selected for that. That's where I met Dr. Armstrong. And, it is an amazing experience when you feel like you have some diversity of issues in your region, and you go speak to someone from another region, you realize that it is widespread, but there are solutions. And that's what this particular program does. It is connecting people across the country. I don't know how I would have met Dr. Armstrong. She is up in Michigan, I'm down here in Texas, but a program like this, which is national, is definitely getting that process started. It's been going on since the early 2000s, I believe, and it is a great program. After me, Tanya, that's how I met Tanya as well. Dr. Maestas is in that program. So, there are these programs available for us to access. There's also accelerated webinars on ADA, encouraging leadership and how to become an effective leader, which is free for members as well. And I believe, strides are being made. Sometimes it's harder to see the fruit, but the seeds have been sown and we are just growing that tree right now.
Yeah, I love ADA, IDL, and man, I didn't know we had to go to Chicago to meet each other, but glad we did, Dr. Tsusu. Dr. Armstrong.
Yes, so the great thing about the ADA's IDL program is that everyone there was interested, genuinely interested in diversity. And again, I feel like I keep saying the same thing, genuine interest. That's the only way this is gonna fly, genuine interest. It can't be, we're just doing this because it's the buzzword right now and, things are kind of hot in our country right now. It really has to be genuine interest. And then you know what, you have to go back and look at your home life, your private life, because a lot of times our practices mirror our lives in terms of, the types of patients that we treat, so, is your personal life diverse? Maybe you need to open yourself up, and open up your circle a little bit so that, you can learn about different types of people and in different situations. So, genuine interest in diversity, I think, is the key to all of this.
Thank you. Dr. Crump.
Thank you. The last thing that I think all of us want to do is kind of rubber stamp this issue and say, okay, we've got this statement, we've got a committee, so we're all good. I mean, that's just a starting point. And, I think it's so important for the local organizations to, number one, identify, certain individuals who are of diverse backgrounds, to bring them into the folds of leadership, to get them more visible to other members who may not be involved, and say, look, there are people who do look like me, who are like me, that are leaders in this organization. Because it's, we've talked about, in Dallas that, if you go to the ADA House of Delegates, it's like the vast majority of them are white men. And that, has its benefits, but that's gonna take some time to reverse that demographic. But it all starts locally, and really identifying those individuals who we can really, kind of groom into leadership positions to make them more visible. And, just talking to people as human beings. When you see them at meetings, if you see somebody you don't know, go up to them, how are you doing? It's really nice to see you here. It's a couple of sentences, minimal energy. And that can make the world of difference to whether somebody becomes a member or doesn't become a member. Going up to them and saying 2 sentences, how are you today? I'm so glad to see you tonight at the meeting. So simple. I don't know why it's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable for me to do that. And it's uncomfortable, I'm sure, for everybody. But, it's just a conscious effort, basically, to know better. the quote is, if you know better, do better. By doing events like this, we're knowing better. So now we got to do better.
Thank you. Dr. Miners.
Yeah, I don't know if I added everybody's but I guess go back to, making sure that we're really leading on other diverse organizations or areas and being a part of them or making them a part of your organization. And that's, I think, one way to be genuine about it, reaching out to these other organizations that can help you move their policies forward or what they think, inviting them maybe to be guest lecturers at your meetings, inviting their leadership to be a part of your leadership. I think that was the stepping stone for me, and it just made this whole process easier for me to kind of be where I am. I never imagined myself in this role or on a panel like this. But, I think it came from the genuineness of our leadership locally that really wanted to embrace these changes and opening those doors and opportunities. So, and it all started, like you said, just from somebody inviting me, reaching out on a phone call and inviting me to my first meeting and welcoming me at that first meeting. So, yeah.
We got to reach out. You never know when you'll be shaking the next hand of the next TDA president. You may have been the one that welcomed them in. So we will answer the last question. I think it's going to be a good wrap-up question. We do have a few minutes, so we may breeze through this one. But the question is from Michelle Moreno, and the question is, what conversations is the ADA tripartite having with their existing members regarding welcoming more of us minority members into the fold? Like Dr. Armstrong said, if we don't feel welcome, we aren't coming back. This conversation is talking about how we need to be uncomfortable. What about the other way around? Dr. Miners, you want to start us off with it?
Yeah, I'm trying to read that question too. Let's see. I guess the town hall like tonight, I think this is a way of starting these conversations. I think this is our way of TDA and ADA. It's starting these conversations and hopefully inviting you to participate on more of these committees. I think at the ADA level, I've seen some surveys come out that they've passed out through emails to get your feedback on how we can make our leadership more diverse. Our incoming president, Dr. Sabates, is really passionate about increasing diversity within our leadership as well. And yes, it may take time to get there, but they're starting those conversations. They're polling our membership and seeing where we can work to make each of us more welcoming. So hopefully seeing more leadership reflective of our membership should help steer us in that right direction.
Very nice. Dr. Crump.
Thank you. This issue, I think, has kind of like cream on milk, has risen to the top at the national organization, state organization, and at the local components. Us in Dallas, we've really been focusing on this for the past 5 to 7 years. So for Dr. Moreno, just know that this is a conversation being had, and the organizations are working to figure out what's the best path to start to tackle this issue. The TDA is holding this event tonight, which I think is just amazing, and hopefully we'll have more of these to come. So just know that and feel comfortable that this is part of a lot of organizations, strategic plans with their organizations moving forward to try to start the conversations, start the discussions, start the question and answer sessions to figure out what type of work needs to be done, from a grassroots level to improve this issue.
Thank you. Dr. Armstrong.
Well, I can speak personally regarding Michigan Dental Association. We've had diverse leadership in our organization over the years. We have, Michigan has lots of diversity in the ADA components. the Michigan Dental Association. So, I think that they're making great strides, and, they do collaborate with the local NDA chapter a lot of times in terms of CE. We try to do something at least once a year with the Michigan Dental Association. So I think we talked about that earlier, about collaborating, with local components and other organizations. So I do have to commend the Michigan Dental Association. And then, they're always calling me. But, as I guess I'm the it girl right now, but there are many behind me that, can do the same thing and that are, looking to join the leadership in the Michigan Dental Association. And so, I'm an encourager as well. So, I do commend Michigan for that.
Definitely a knit girl. That's why we have you here tonight. Dr. Tsusu.
So I will just kind of repeat kind of what I said, being on the council for TDA, this is a directive from our leadership. Dr. Worsham, who is our current president, Dr. Clemens, our past president, Dr. Ho, our president-elect, they have all made this a priority. And that is why we are having this webinar. Part of our council was actually during our early days last year was split up into two components. And one of them was a subcommittee on diversity. And, we came up with ideas, what can we do to start the conversation? And, this is what this is, we talked about how this has to be a conversation and has to be an ongoing conversation. And that's why we have a town hall. We don't have a webinar. We don't have just panelists answering questions that were already pre-made and pre-thought out. We are actually answering some questions live. It's because this is a conversation. And that is the important part. And part of the conversation as a council member is also listening to what you have to say. So, I would encourage anyone and everyone listening, if there are suggestions that you have for our leadership to encourage this particular topic, please reach out. We are accessible as leaders. And I can tell you, as the presidents itself, they will also agree with me that, we are serving you. It's not the other way around. As leaders, we are servant leaders. So if you have suggestions, if you have some programs, or if you need any help, please reach out. Leanne at TDA is part of our membership initiative. She is amazing, and she will definitely respond to you with any questions or concerns you have. If there is an event you want to help organize relating to this topic, reach out. We will see what we can do at the state level to have that happen. Another thing is the ADA is, for example, holding a diversity and inclusion training sessions to help local committees set up their diversity and inclusion committees. So if that is something that you feel is going to be helpful in this conversation, reach out to us. We'll get you that information. We are here to serve you, and this is just the start. And as a council member, I can let you know that this is just a beginning. And again, I will just reiterate, the leadership is on board in having this conversation, not just right now, but having this conversation continue into years forward and actually make progress.
Thank you, Dr. Tsusu. Yeah, so the ADA has an accelerator series, if the participants don't really know what that is, but they have a lot of different webinars and sequential series that build on different topics. And I believe that one of them is diversity and inclusion. But I have really, truly enjoyed our conversation tonight. And I want to commend each and every one of you all for being leaders in your individual components and on the state level and nationally. But Dr. Miners, Dr. Crump, Dr. Armstrong, and Dr. Thusu, thank you for your leadership, and also thank you for being here tonight. We know that everyone has busy lives, but it's so important. And I know that each one of us feels so passionate about this topic and about this issue, and we want to bring it to the table and continue to have these conversations. And I hope these conversations will go on into our individual components and throughout the entire tripartite. I'd also like to thank all the attendees for joining us tonight and for your questions. If there were any questions that weren't answered, you can email ljohnson. I'll ask her to please put her email in the chat, but it's ljohnson@tda.org. You can send them your way and you'll be sure to get a response from potentially her or maybe one of us on the committee. I'd also like to thank the Council on Membership, New Dentists, and Students for all their hard work. Dr. Sarah Percy Tovar for her leadership, and also Dr. Jody Dana for her leadership last year as the chair. A lot of the conversation started with her and her vision of bringing this town hall to life. Also, Leanne Johnson for all of her hard work. And we are going to have more town halls and more webinars on behalf of the TDA into the future. We expect and hopefully anticipate that our next one be sometime in the spring. But if there are any topics that you would like us to discuss or conversations that you would like to be a part of, I would encourage you to potentially also email Leanne with those ideas and we can make those a reality. But yeah, any final thoughts from any of our panelists this evening?
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me. This was a great experience and I've enjoyed the conversation. I've enjoyed the conversation with the panelists. So again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. All righty, everyone. Well, we won't keep everyone too long. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Miners.
No. I was just going to say the same. Thank you for the opportunity. And it's great to see everybody that was on the call tonight. And I guess I hope to see more of you in our future webinars and town halls.
Yeah, and hopefully maybe in the future we can all connect in person and hopefully COVID will be somewhat out of the way. But thank you all for your time and we won't stay too much longer because I know that we could probably speak on this for a lot more hours, but that only means that we need more town halls. So on behalf of the TDA, thank you everyone for your participation tonight.